What is up, guys? Welcome to the Mark Cirillo College Football Show, where we talk all things college football. So let's get right into today's episode. We're going to be talking about the transfer portal. I know that there's a lot going on in college football right now. You have the bowl games. You have, the early signing period just passed. We have the regular signing period in February. We have the coaching carousel and, of course, the college football playoff. But why I want to talk about the transfer portal, it just feels different this year. The talent is absolutely loaded in the portal. Many guys have already committed, guys that will be instant impacts that could change programs. I'm going to talk solely about the quarterback position because there is that many game-changing quarterbacks that were in the portal this cycle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a list from 5 to 1, 1 being what I think is the best move in the portal at the quarterback position this year. But before I do so, there, of course, is going to be some honorable mention candidates that didn't quite crack the top 5. My first honorable mention is Bo Nix. He's transferring from Auburn to Oregon. This is actually a very interesting situation because many Oregon fans want to go with the homegrown talent in the elite recruit of Ty Thompson. He's been there a couple years now. He was, I believe, like the 40th ranked recruit coming out of high school, so they want to see what he could do. But at the same time, you're bringing in Bo Nix, who's a very experienced quarterback. He's played in the SEC, what many believe to be the best league in the country, so that is very, very valuable experience. Of course, his career has been a little bit of ups and downs, but he has shown a ton of promise. So this is definitely a situation to monitor. I don't think Bo Nix is just going to be handed the starting job. I think he's going to have to beat out the current guys in the room, but I'm very interested to see how this plays out. Next up, we have Michael Penix. He's transferring from Indiana to Washington. I think initially, after Washington hired Kalen DeBoer and Jake Haener entered the portal from Fresno State, obviously both of them being from Fresno State, that Haener would follow him to Washington. But he didn't. He rescinded his name out of the portal. He's staying at Fresno State. And then all of a sudden you see, Penix is heading to Washington. The thing here is Penix has been injured the past 2 years. He was having an unbelievable 2020 season. He took a basketball school in Indiana and made them a football school. He had them in the top 10. I believe at their peak they were number 9. They finished the season 12, but he did have a season-ending torn ACL. So we'll see if he could return to that form. He will be a dynamic player for Washington and really, really help them in the quarterback area. And lastly, how am I going to talk about college football without talking about Adrian Martinez? It feels like he's been in college football for decades. He was at Nebraska. He's heading to Kansas State. So he does bring a ton of experience in that aspect. So we'll see if he could win that job there in Kansas State. So now let's talk about our top 5. Coming in at number 5, we have Max Johnson. He's transferring from LSU to Texas A&M. I think the last game he played at LSU was that thrilling win against A&M. This was Coach O's last game. It was really a great drive to win the game. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. But he's going to Texas A&M with a season, like a huge season in the SEC. I didn't even realize that he threw 27 touchdowns in the SEC, and this is big for A&M because he's heading to a team that's in the same conference. So he's played similar competition. He knows the league well, and he really brings now a veteran mindset to this team. They did have Zach Calzana this year. He has entered the portal, so he won't be there next year, barring, him taking his name out. I don't believe he's committed yet. But, he had good moments at A&M this year. He beat Bama, so that's something he'll have forever. But at the same time, it did feel like something was missing once they lost Kellen Mond to the NFL, who was selected by the Vikings in the 3rd round. So I think Max Johnson will be a plug and play there, and I think he will improve that room and really bring value to the Texas A&M program. At number 4, I absolutely love Dillon Gabriel as a player. He's heading from Central Florida to UCLA. Clearly, he likes the warm weather, but he's a fantastic player. He puts up video game stats. I mean, I believe his first year at UCF, he put up 29 touchdowns. Then in 2020, he had 35 touchdowns. Many wanted him to be in that Heisman contention. And then this year, he did get hurt midseason, but he was on pace to have a nice season. So he's heading to UCLA. He will be awesome to watch under Chip Kelly. The only reason I have him at 4, I would actually have him higher, is the possibility of Dorian Thompson-Robinson coming back. He has played 4 full seasons at UCLA. He's been a starter there for pretty much all 4 years. The only thing is he could come back for a 5th year, and he hasn't made his intentions clear if he's going to the NFL, if he's transferring, or if he's coming back. So my thing is, you're going to have two great quarterbacks, which obviously is not a problem. I mean, it's an embarrassment of the riches there. They'll have two elite QBs, or I don't know if you want to say DTR is elite, but he's a very good player in the same room. Gabriel obviously transferred to play, right? And DTR has been starting there for years. So I do think that could cause friction in the locker room if DTR comes back. So that's the only reason I have that down at number 4. Moving on to number 3, I think a lot of people are going to be skeptical. They're not going to like this take. They're actually going to feel like he should be the number 1. But I'm actually going Quinn Ewers at number 3. He's transferring from Ohio State to Texas. I mean, this is a match made in heaven. Ewers is that, he is Mr. Texas, right? He was the perfect recruit coming out of college. He was the number 1 overall recruit last year. He went to Ohio State, and he actually reclassified and came out a year early because of, he had all these NIL deals lined up. The reason why this isn't my number 1, he is obviously, I'm not going to say obviously, but he is probably the most talented quarterback in the portal. And, he could win a Heisman, a national championship, bring Texas back, of course. But I do think the only problem is the expectation might be so high, so hard to meet. And at the same time, I mean, this is just my feeling. Obviously, I don't know him personally, but it just feels like right now, he may be more of a celebrity than a football player right now. Obviously, that could change. This might come back to haunt me. You know what I mean? But he's getting all these NIL deals, all this attention. We haven't seen him take a snap. That's why I can't put him at number 1. But I do think he will do big, big things at Texas. At number 2, we got Spencer Rattler transferring from Oklahoma to South Carolina. I understand he had the rough season. He got benched for Caleb Williams. But we got to take a step back and remember that, these guys are in the portal for a reason. They're either coming from a group of 5 school and getting the opportunity to play for a bigger Power 5 school, or they were at a Power 5 school and there was some sort of speed bump or issue, and that's why they're leaving, right? Whether it's playing time, whatever it may be. So obviously none of these guys on this list are going to be perfect, but Spencer Rattler is a great player. We have to remember that coming into the season, he was the Heisman favorite. He was the presumptive number 1 pick in the 2022 draft. He didn't have that bad of a year. You know what I mean? He just got benched pretty early on. He did struggle, but for South Carolina to land a player of Spencer Rattler's caliber, he could bring them back to a top 10 school, to a top 15 school. It feels like they've been lacking that national prominence since the Connor Shaw days. So I really do think he could bring them back there. And, the SEC, as you know, is so competitive. To get a player like him to just plug and play, he's a veteran, he's played, and he's been a superstar, in college football. So why can't he recreate that? And I think Shane Beamer is an up-and-coming coach. I don't know if you just saw, but they did have a nice bowl win over UNC. So that momentum is growing for that program, and I am very excited to see, this Rattler storyline is kind of crazy. He's going from the Heisman favorite, number 1 overall pick, to benched. Can he have that redemption, right? Can he come back and really just ball out? So that is something I'll be monitoring very closely. And then my number 1 QB transfer, not saying he is the most talented player, this is just my favorite move of the cycle, is Kedon Slovis from USC to Pittsburgh. Slovis was a freshman phenom at USC. He threw 30 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, in that first year, really just barged onto the scene. He was a guy that I actually thought coming into the season could challenge Rattler for that Heisman as a dark horse and actually overtake him as the number 1 pick in the 2022 draft. As we know, that did not work out to plan. I mean, even in 2020, he didn't have a great season. He threw 17 touchdowns in that shortened 6-game Pac-12 schedule. And then this year, really an abysmal, I'm not going to say an abysmal year, but just not a great year for what I expected out of Slovis. He threw 11 touchdowns in 9 games. It's not really what you want to see, but the reason why this is my favorite move is because for both parties, it just makes so much sense. Pittsburgh is obviously losing Kenny Pickett, 5th-year senior, Heisman finalist, will be a first-round draft pick, ACC champion. He was a guy that this came out of nowhere. Kenny Pickett was a 13-touchdown, 9-interception guy, and he just exploded with 40-plus touchdown passes, just really taking control of this team. And I think Slovis can do the same exact thing under the leadership of Pat Narduzzi at Pittsburgh. They needed to fill that void at quarterback because Pickett did carry them. But, they found that, I think, in Slovis. So why can't they untap that potential that we know he could do it? He threw 30 touchdowns in a season. And we just saw that Pittsburgh developed Kenny Pickett, and he was able to reach that pinnacle that we saw this year. They did lose the offensive coordinator, Whipple, to Nebraska, but I don't see why they can't recreate this success with Slovis. I'm not saying he's going to replicate Pickett's season. I mean, that is an extremely tall task, but I do think he could be a superstar caliber quarterback. And for him, it made sense. It was a fresh opportunity, but he knows the blueprint is there. He's seen Pickett do it. So why can't he do it? That's my thing. I think this is a great matchup on both sides. I mean, as a Miami fan, I'm obviously not happy about it. Not that I'm scared of Pittsburgh, but as a coastal fan, I do think that, this was a tough blow for all the other coastal teams because they essentially found a replacement for Kenny Pickett, a seasoned veteran at quarterback. We'll see how it plays out. The thing is, compared to these other quarterbacks, the Coastal is a relatively easy division. So Slovis could lead them to another conference championship. So we'll see how it goes. Let me know what quarterback transfer portal moves you've liked so far this cycle. Make sure to comment and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.